Welcome to the Overwatch Hot Takes. My name is KarQ. Let us begin this week's episode. Remember to leave yours in the comments, and here we go. First hot take is nerfing stadium cash is the worst way to balance the game. I would rather have 6 mediocre purples than to have to scrape together enough for one good one. Honestly, the more I think about this, the more I kind of agree. I actually think it's like from a player psychology standpoint, you want to be able to feel powerful and strong, and feeling like after round 1 where you barely scraped by and made really little money and you can't afford a purple till like much later, you don't get that dopamine hit as early. So they could probably opt to pick a different knob or different variable to tweak in stadium to nerf a character. So maybe not so much stadium cash, but maybe just adjust the stats of certain items that are problematic more so than that. Additionally, I've left some feedback for like stadium in the past, but I do feel like they should probably do like an item tree variant, because it feels even worse when you buy an item that's specific to your hero that helps counter another hero, but it's a blue, and then you're in round 7 and like it feels bad to have a slot that's still blue, but you kind of need it for this fight, and it just feels like you're falling behind because you got 10,000 left over. Because like, let's say for example, D.Va has like the anti-beam, beams do less damage, but it's a blue survival item, and you're round 7, you have 5 purples and you're sitting on 10,000 cash. It's like, do I sell this beam thing? But like, no, it's necessary, but like it feels bad because you don't have an extra purple slot, which also has equally strong stats as well, but you need it for this matchup. So like items that are specifically like blue, for example, that have a trait, they need to evolve into a purple that carries that blue trait, but you know, you still get purple value in other stats as well. Like obviously the price can be adjusted, but like that's what the game needs, in my opinion, more so than that. But I got sidetracked. I do agree with this first one. Next hot take is I think they need to stop trying to make new game modes. They need to make more maps. I think they're agreeing with this at this point. I mean, we had Flashpoint and Push, and it's been like 2-3 years now, right? Those are the last 2 recent game modes. They tried Clash as the new one and like it didn't hit. Like just stop with that. Like they have 5 or 6 good game modes in this game, like Control, Hybrid, Payload, whatever, and like we're good. Just more variation with the maps, and then add the map voting like they mentioned, and I think we're in a good spot. Next hot take, Sombra isn't the problem anymore. It's the player's inability to learn the matchup. Sombra has been through worse iterations and has been much more oppressive than her current version. It's actually hilarious that a hero from 2016 that has simple of a counterplay as turning around and staying as a team, and it's as if no one has learned within 2016 to current time to counter her. I agree, a lot of people are afraid of the matchup because they just don't like dealing with stealth, but this happens in every game with a stealth mechanic. Like people don't like play against Twitch or Evelyn in some cases, or Shaco, because stealth is just annoying, and like people are going to enter the game not always from 2016. There's going to be new players, new people who game and don't play other games and have to deal with a stealth mechanic. It is a little bit of a skill check and a learning curve, but I do agree. I think Sombra's been at like way stronger states and more oppressive states than her current one is, but people are kind of like lazy to, not lazy, but like it does require a little bit of coordination to kind of like counter it, and the stuff that requires coordination to counter is always tougher for the average solo queue player, and I'm not really sure how you tackle this other than like removing that stealth mechanic completely. Like invisibility is the bigger frustration more than anything. Next hot take is Clash is way worse in Stadium than it ever was in the base game or comp. Only having 2 team fights is extremely fast, even for a Stadium round, and it gives the team that won the first point an insane advantage to effectively have their spawn point moved to mid and have better ult economy in the second fight. Even if that team that lost the first point happens to get the second point, the majority of the time they're still fighting an uphill battle because the other team is able to defend mid again and will have more ult online. I actually kind of disagree with this take. I actually think the team fights in the Clash rounds last longer than any of the other rounds, simply because the fights are so drawn out because of the spawns. So let's unpack this. So the 2 team fights, I don't think it's 2. Sometimes it ends up being like one long one. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like a 3-minute fight on mid, or even one of the back ones, because of how fast people come back. And you say it gives the team the first point an advantage to snowball their point and move to mid, but the defending team still has a much closer spawn. And the ult economy is a little chaotic in Stadium, in my opinion, where like people are kind of just pressing it as soon as they get it. And even if so, like because people have so much HP in Stadium because of the way the cash is, especially if the Clash round is round 5 or later, then it becomes a little hectic. If Clash is early on, then I can agree more with your statement. But the team that did lose the first point, they usually do not capture the second. in my experience, anecdotally. It ends up being like the defending team ends up just taking the point back, and it ends up being like a third point back into the mid again, simply because of how powerful the spawn advantage is. Literally on Anubis, I'm thinking you spawn, you walk out, and you're back on the point. But like the defenders have to like walk through mid and then round the choke, and if they go under that underpass before they even have a decent sight line onto the point. I think ultimate economy is still a little out of whack in Stadium. Eventually, I do think if it becomes more competitively viable, people will think about it a little more, but right now people are just chucking them out like it's whenever they get get it. Hot take, a form of mass res could absolutely work in either stadium or as a major perk. I disagree. I think it's even crazier in Stadium because of how powerful people become and how many items and how much HP people end up in, that a form of mass res ends up being insanely like game breaking in a lot of cases. Because like imagine playing against like a Diva May comp that just never dies, and if they do die then they get mass res. Like mass res would have to come with a lot of costs associated with it. Either it's a very expensive item, I don't think it should be a power, or like it has like a long cast time or some sort of drawbacks to cancel. Because like, yeah, I think we can stay away from that kind of mechanic in this game forever. Not in Stadium, not as a major perk, no way. The objectively correct take is that the game should have both simple and complex characters. I agree with this for now. Being complex doesn't mean it's OP, while being simple doesn't mean it's boring. Good design is independent on the amount of abilities. I don't think this is a hot take nor a cool take. This seems like a pretty solid take. Game should have simple and complex characters because you want heroes and characters to be accessible by everybody. And the big part that you mentioned is good design is independent on the amount of abilities. I will say some Rivals does melee characters very well, but they do have some characters that have so many buttons and abilities, like they're just bound on so many things, that having more isn't necessarily better design, which is true for some, but not always the case. It's one of those like good design is independent from the amount of abilities, but having more amount of abilities could still be good design depending on how they do it. I see where you're going with this. The tiered Mythic skins are an insult to what they're supposed to be, customizable with genuinely different options. Widow, Juno, and Reaper are great examples of this problem. Ryan is a recent Mythic that did it the right way, more like the Genji and Ana. You can see which heroes have more care towards them based on like hero play rate. You can see heroes like Genji, Ryan, Mercy have a lot more care put into them, more customization, but some were definitely rushed more than others, and it feels kind of bad that some heroes get shafted more than others, but that's just the development pipeline. You can definitely criticize and be like, hey, like some of these Mythics are just definitely not up to par to the previous ones. I think the Orisa one was pretty subpar. The Hanzo one was pretty like whatever. Some of them are just straight up just colors. No like different armor platings, no designs, no tattoos like the Genji. Sucks, but when you have 9-week cycles, it's tough. I do know that Overwatch has recently hired a lot more, and like they're really pumping more money into it and trying to push out and be better now. So hopefully all the Mythics starting in the next year start getting better. And I say next year because development takes a while. If a Mythic skin takes like months to develop, that means like if they started hiring recently in the last couple of months, especially with Rivals being like a big like fire under their ass, you won't see the effects of the new hires and the new outsourcing and like the better work put into it until maybe a few months, if not a year down the line. So it's one of those to keep in mind. If the quality, listen, next year is also year 10 for Overwatch. Think about it that way. I'm hoping that they continue to go on this upward trend for sure, and fix up some of the poor Mythics and other aspects of the game too. Hot take, 3 heroes per year is plenty, since quality matters more than quantity. I will gladly wait 4 months for a well-rounded kit. I agree. I do think hero cadence is at a pretty good spot. It's reasonable for development. They have to design all their characters from scratch, unlike Marvel. And if they put a lot of care into it, I think 3 a year is fine, as long as they, you know, segment each interim season with some new stuff, which they have always been doing. That's been their goal. If they're not having a new hero season, it's either a new mode like Stadium, new maps, and new fun stuff. I think they missed one season where they had an interim non-hero season. They didn't add a new map or anything, and it's like, so what happens now? It's just not much, but they got through it. They're probably sweeping it under the rug where like hopefully nobody noticed. I noticed it. In any case, it's okay, but I do agree, three per year is good. Hot take, Stadium has so much more potential, but the mode will die out if they don't add more flankers. For context, currently the only threat to support is Genji, but with how strong poke and rush is, he gets shut down and can't pressure supports who are overtuned normally with consistently. I don't think it'll die out with if they don't add more flankers. I think it's more of I mean, they have their entire roster of 6 new heroes that are coming in for the next few seasons. They are releasing 3 per season every 3 weeks. We will see new additions soon enough, and when we round out the roster, it'll be good, but I don't think flankers are a reason the mode dies out. I think it's like, as a core, I think just making it more fun with like the better item selection and like not feeling so hard countered is probably a bigger thing. Like you mentioned with Genji, he gets shut down. I think having more tools as Genji to deal with that, so you don't feel like shut down as hard, so you can kind of do your job, will be cool. Because like I mentioned this last time, but like you load in as Genji and they run like Moira, who's a beam, and a Zarya and a Kiriko or something. Like what do? You need items that help you deal with it, because you can't swap heroes in this case, and they need more of that because they only have like 1 or 2 good item options when they deal with this kind of stuff, you know? Next hot take is I never liked hero bans. I do not think they make the game more competitive, but what they do is cater to competitive players who have very strong opinions. A statement that, yeah, I think being able to just prevent a specific player from being allowed to play their character makes it more competitive is insane to me. There's nothing less competitive than saying you're not allowed to play. The spirit of competition is to work on yourself to defeat your opponents. Hero bans have been and always will be a way for the community to band-aid alter the game, but that doesn't actually make it more competitive. Would you say chess is a less competitive game because you can't ban an opponent's piece? And just to be clear, I'm not a Sombra player or really any of the commonly banned characters. I just think they are obnoxious. Okay, this one's a interesting hot take. I want to just start off by saying I do think hero bans is a system that will not please everybody, and you're on the other side of like, I don't like the system, and that's perfectly valid. You say what they do is cater to competitive players who have strong opinions. Partially true. I mean, it's for competitive only, right? If you play quick play, hero bans don't apply to you. But strong opinions is subjective. Like everybody who's frustrated or annoyed at a certain character will tend to have an opinion on a hero that they don't like, and they tend to ban for that. And now you're saying, yeah, I think this being able to prevent a specific player from being allowed to play their character makes it more competitive is insane, because there's less it's nothing less competitive than saying you're not allowed to play. But you have to think about hero bans are for both teams, and you're giving the players the agency to craft their own experience. We're not in the Olympics here. We are playing ranked ladder. At the highest level, hero bans end up being like a tactic, a strategy, and even some cases here too. Like if you're a ball player, like you do not want to see Sombra in your game because that's a tactic in itself to get rid of something that can counter you. Then you can argue that it's also equally competitive to figure out a strategy to defeat a ball player when you don't have the option to play Sombra. So it's still competitive in both ways. I wouldn't say it's less competitive to remove a certain aspect due to hero bans. And hero bans serve as a good data point. It's like, okay, so why is this hero getting constantly banned? And it serves as good information for the devs to like tackle the root problem as well. That's another like byproduct of hero bans. People craft their own experience. They have more fun. Again, we're not the Olympics. We want people to have better retention. And if Sombra's making them uninstall and quit the game, I think curating that better experience for you is a win for everybody here. And again, I mentioned the strategy part, but like there's truly like depth to it as well. When you remove something that was part of a tactic, it's also equally competitive to figure out a counter strategy without that. Like think about maybe not hero bans. Let's say you're in the NBA playoffs and like your star player gets injured, right? And like using this analogy, let's say they're banned, okay? Like they're out of the game. So how do you adapt your team in the NBA playoffs because your star player is gone? You have a hero ban, and each game has hopefully different hero bans. Like how do you adapt? There is strategy to this, and it also encourages people to play more heroes, different heroes as well, and it helps like stagnant metas where like this hero is always meta, so they're played every game, but like because every game has hopefully different bans, like certain heroes that are problematic are not here, then like, you know, each game can feel a little bit more fresh too. Like there's a lot of pros and cons to it. So my like basketball analogy is kind of like counteracting your like chess one. I don't think your chess one, where chess is less competitive because you ban an opponent's piece. It's like a apples to oranges kind of comparison. You know what I mean? In any case, you're entitled to your opinion. It's all good. All right, last hot take of the week. The more I lose at Overwatch, the more motivated I am to play it, and I'm not entirely sure why. Recently, after Stadium release and hero bans were added to the standard comp, I went on a winning streak for a large swath of my games, the ones I could actually play, and now I haven't touched Overwatch seriously in almost a week and a half, despite the mid-season patch dropping. I'm still watching KarQ and Frogger videos, so I obviously still like and enjoy Overwatch, and don't feel ultra burned out. I'm just not super motivated to play it presently, which kind of sucks because I would like to climb the ranks and everything back out of plat and gold. Side note, thank God I cleared the battle pass, or else it would have been a waste of 1,000 coins. This doesn't really feel like a take. This is just like you just airing out your what? Okay, so the more you lose, the more motivated you are to like prove yourself wrong and like win after. Okay. Like that's it. Mic drop. The last part was just like, thanks for sharing your story. But okay. Oh, I can maybe like recraft this into a take on your behalf here, where it's like hot take. The more you lose at Overwatch, the more you should feel motivated to play it or something. Play the game and get better. Not really a hot take, but like if you're constantly losing, you want to be motivated to win. If you're constantly a losing basketball team, what can you do to improve and win? That's not even a hot take. I don't even know what I'm trying to get at here. Thanks for sharing. And that's it for this episode. Goodbye.